This is an American red pill in Paris. This is my first video, and this is part one of several videos that I'm going to eventually make. The first video, let's just say the question is like, why am I even doing this? Like, why am I even making red pill videos out here? I'm in the Parisian region, but I'm just saying, I'm just calling myself an American red pill in Paris. It's for convenience sake. I've been in France for quite a long time. I'm not going to give lots of details for now about like my life here, but I've been here for a long time, and I've been following what's going on out back at home in the United States, and I'm addressing myself to everyone, and men in particular, men around the world, men from the States, and those French men out here who actually speak English. Perhaps I will make videos in French in the future. Who knows? But I've been listening to red pill content for a few years now, and notably MGTOW content, and I'm beginning to really be concerned about obviously what's going on in the United States. The developments that have occurred recently, things that I observed a long time ago when I was a college student. Notably, the passivity, the sort of like the passivity of men, and the overwhelming drive, in American women to dominate the narrative and to control men. I mean, in the 90s, that's when I went to college. That's when I was in college. In the 90s, I noticed lots of, I don't know. There was still relative freedom. We were not in a state of paranoia, but I noticed that women were affirming themselves in ways that I found a bit disturbing, and that and I used to ask myself the question, like, is it me? So perhaps what I'm trying to say is that it takes a long time for you to like finally realize that it's not just you. Like the discomfort that you feel, the unease that you feel, the gaslighting that you're actually living under. These are things that take a long time to identify. So, like lots of young men, at the time, I was going through my, my post-adolescent or young man's crisis, with regard to women and relationships, and what I finally realized, is that, it wasn't really me. There was something wrong with American women, at the time. I found them, very, very controlling, dominating, masculine, trying to even then, like trying to appropriate masculine qualities, notably like virility, competitiveness, aggressiveness, a way of affirming themselves. But the double standard was that they had the right to affirm themselves, and we were just like applauding them and just like egging them on, encouraging them, because it was we were at the, I would just say, at a certain stage in the feminist movement, in a sort of like a post hippie era, where we did not see women as rivals, not rivals in the negative, like in the lethal sense of the word. It was irritating at the time, and now things have come to a head, and I would say that things have exploded. Things have festered over, and the reason why I'm doing this, I'm actually starting this channel, is because in a way it's like I've spent like a lot of my life outside of the United States. After the late 90s, the early 2000s, I moved around Europe, and I traveled quite a lot, and the United States for me, I have my family out there, was a place that I visited, and I was able to like sort of take a distance from what was going on in the United States, And I was living, different experiences out here in France. And as they say, when things that happen in the United States tend to happen, let's say 10, 15, 20 years later in France. But with internet and with new technology, social media, the things have accelerated. And I've started noticing, in France, but it's obvious to everyone that French women, and who are much more feminine, much more elegant, much more attractive, in my opinion, than American women, are beginning to take on these like masculine, manly, American traits. I mean, they're not succeeding at it necessarily, but it's creating a whole different kind of woman, I feel. And they're sort of like aping what American, feminists are doing, and what American, third wavers, are doing, and they are actually becoming, very, very difficult to deal with. Um, what I mean by that is that what I used to appreciate about American women in the past was that American women are much more straightforward. I mean, at least they were. They seemed much more straightforward. It was clearer. The codes were clearer, of attraction, and French women, there's a whole different tradition of seduction. There's a whole different culture, and the French language is a language that I think is more conducive to seduction. It's more conducive to conversation, to sensuality. Whereas I feel that the English language is perhaps a bit more concrete, a bit more direct when it comes to those things. Um, what I've noticed though in France today is that with notably like the Me Too movement, and with American feminism exporting itself everywhere, is that you know French institutions, which are different from American institutions because France is a very centralized country. What happens hierarchically? It's a top down kind of culture. Like once things enter institutions, they spread very, very quickly. Okay, and the French mentality, I think, is more of a hive mentality. It's more of a collective mentality. It's not only the women. There's a collective hive mentality here, and I've noticed that these ideas, these sort of strange ideas, are beginning to spread like wildfire, like really, really quickly. And of course, they're being promoted by government, and then they are actually, they've entered into the school system. They've entered into publicity. These ideas are on billboards. Notably the idea that that women need to be protected, and that they are the eternal victims of the evil wolf, the evil man, hiding in the woods. I recently there was an ad about a year ago that really, really struck me. It was like a huge ad, like a huge billboard, where you had like image of a woman. Actually, she's at a bus stop. It's at night, and surrounded by forest, and with forest and woods. So it's like a lonely bus stop, and in the background you see sort of like in like you see these like really like white eyes hiding in the woods, waiting to pounce on this poor little Red Riding Hood, and it was an ad sort of like denouncing violence against women, and this was like an outright attack. For me, that was like the beginning of me like saying, hold on a second, what's going on here? And then a few months later, because I teach in schools and universities and stuff like that here, and there were like these ads all over, like these sort of like cartoons, and all over like the university that I'm teaching in, sort of denouncing sexism, denouncing male teachers like harassing young women, all this kind of stuff. So this has come to a head out here in France. So I'm not going to go that much further. I'm going to stop here because I have to get my head together and my thoughts together. I'm a bit nervous about doing this first video, but I'm going to try to develop all of this, like the parallels that I see between France and the U.S. like what in terms of red pill and MGTOW content and things to look out for and just how things are evolving here. Considering that this is a different culture and that in each culture, the effects of of toxic feminism are not going to be the same because I think it's almost like a disease. You know, each each organism has a different level of resistance, has a different level of immunity, and immunity has to do with your environment. It has to do with your own your own capacity to resist and certain cultural and even linguistic barriers, and historical ones. So I see those barriers like coming down in France in a very, very strange way. So I would like to just talk about like the differences between what I perceive as well, French society in general and American society, and whether or not this you know this sickness is going to spread out here, and in what forms, what shapes, you know, the sickness is going to take. So I'm just going to stop here for now. An American, red pill in Paris, signing out, and I will be back very soon.